Hey guys, Fury here, and today we're starting off with a revival project. So I have a bunch of videos planned out to revive old armies, or well, my older brother's old armies. He had some Chaos Space Marine stuff and some Blood Raven stuff. Yes, that's how old the armies are from Blood Raven times. So we have a lot to work with, and today we're starting off with this Chaos Rhino. Now we're missing a hatch here, the weapon, and this little gate piece. Yeah, this is literally fully just come off. So we're going to keep that to the side just here. Now we have to bring this thing back to life, meaning we have to repair everything that's broken. We have to repaint the whole thing and try and make it look good. Now looking at the sides, it's just gold and blue. The paint job isn't overly amazing. And there's some weird stuff on here on the sides. So it looks good, but we can make it look way better. To start things off, we need to get rid of this side of the spikes. We also have to cut off all of these little knobs and replace it with this. So this is an Age of Sigmar terrain piece. We're basically going to cut off the spikes from about here. So right here where my thumb is, that's where we're going to cut the spikes off. This whole section of the spikes we're going to put onto the Rhino on this side and on this side, using this side of the spikes and this side of the spikes, because this side's got a bunch of roses. We don't really want the Age of Sigmar feel. We want the 40k spiked chaos feel. Next off, we need to add this hatch here, right to here. And this missile pod, we have to glue back into here. Last of all, there is a spike missing here. I'm debating whether to take off this whole section and put in the new set of spikes, or leave it like that so it looks a bit weathered, and then just go from there, just leave that. I could potentially cut off this little section, just move it along, and cut off this side with the broken off spike. So first of all, let's get to repairing the sides of the Rhino. Now on the Rhino, there's a small piece here that isn't on the other side. And because I love symmetry, despite this being a chaos vehicle, I am going to remove this very small piece. I'm not too sure what it is. It looks like some sort of lights or something. They don't look like weapons. So I am just going to remove it, but we can always reattach it if we need to. We can now move on to the top section of the Rhino, or the front of the top section. First thing we're going to do, we have this small little hatch piece. Now I don't actually want this piece to come out, so we're actually going to put some glue on this piece, because I feel like just having it glued down rather than it can come out at any time and then it gets lost or something, bit annoying. So we'll just glue it down into the Rhino so that it doesn't trouble us anymore. We're now going to take the big rocket piece, which is this right here, and we're just going to glue it into this piece here. It does fit fine, it just needs some glue to make sure that it doesn't get out. So we have glue on both sides. I'm going to get this thing in place. So the tank is now been fixed up. We can now move on to repainting it. Now we're not going to strip it because the paint on it isn't that thick, meaning that we can very easily just paint over it. And we're going to go with the gold and blue theme. So we're going to do a base coat of probably Cantor or Macragge blue, and then moving on to using some sort of gold and then other silvers. Now I'm not actually used to doing anything with tanks or vehicles. I've never painted a proper vehicle except for a Stormhawk Interceptor, which wasn't that good when I did it anyway. But yeah, this is going to be a first proper vehicle with my experience I have now with painting and things like that. Different techniques, so we can probably get this done very quickly, whilst also making sure that this thing looks good. To begin painting the Rhino, I've spray painted it black. So as you can see, the entirety of the Rhino is now black. I just use a standard black spray paint from Halfords. It works well, it's 12 quid, and came out very nicely. I've never done a rattle can that came out this clean. Usually it'll clog some details, but this was actually perfect. One thing I realised is the little missile rack goes up and down, moves a tiny bit, not much of a problem. Now we have to move on to actually start painting. So we want to keep the same colour scheme and the same theme. So as you can see, I've lined up my paints all over here, and hopefully this will be all the paints we need. If we need any more, we have them. I have Abaddon Black just in case we need to clean up something. Other than that, we probably won't even need the black. Now I have Cantor Blue right here, and this is going to be the main blue, which is just going to be all over the model. We're going to basically everything inside of the ridge lines here, except for these big stack pieces, they're all going to be Cantor Blue. And after that, we're going to move on to using Balthazar Gold for the metal. Then off the Balthazar Gold, we're going to use some Reichland Flesh Shade to weather it down. And to finish off the gold and the main build, or the main stages of painting, the first stage of making this model look good, we're then going to highlight with some scratches and just edge highlighting with some Liberated Gold. But first, we need to crack open our pot of Cantor Blue, and we're just going to apply it quite rudimentary to the model. Try and stay away from the gold details. Even if we do hit them, it'll be fine because the gold will go over anyway. And we're just going to do this for the main body. The reason I used a black base paint is so in this lighting you can actually see the difference between the blue and the black, which makes it a lot easier for painting, and then the paint itself will come out a little bit darker than it would if you do it over a white base coat. And I find with blues and stuff, and any paint in general, when you're going for a darker theme, it's better to do a dark base coat than to do a lighter base coat. Otherwise your paint will look just a tiny bit lighter than you actually need it to be. And because it's chaos, I want everything to look a lot more weathered. Whereas usually when I do my painting, I make things look as clean as possible, especially with like Space Marines. With the Liberated Gold highlights done on the Rhino, all of the rust is now accentuated and it looks so much more better. I genuinely think that these highlights that I've done have made the model so much better than it would be without those highlights. We're now going to move on to doing the treads over here, the spikes up here, down here, the small smokestacks, the big missile pod, and the big ram in front, along with some details along the top of the Rhino. So we're going to grab some lead belcher, crack the pot open. I'm going to use my smaller brush for this, especially for the spikes. Just get it down on the palette, get a little bit of water, and we're just going to apply this quite rudimentary around all the metal details, but we're also going to be as careful as we can closest to all the details that we've just painted, such as the rust and the gold and the blue. Now if we get it on the blue, we can always repaint with Cantor Blue and just be careful. Get on the gold, you also have to be careful about that in case you get it on both the Balthazar and the Liberator. Then you have two paints to clean up with. So we're going to paint over all of the metal details, and you can then move on to darkening and dirtying up the metal. With the lead belcher now dry, we have a nice metallic colour on the treads, the spikes and the missile launcher. We're now going to take contrast, the silicon grey. Now, using this in a thin and a light coat means that we can add some sort of darkness and texture to try and deepen the recesses of the model and make sure all of the metallic silver areas just pop out a bit more and look a little bit more weathered and just damaged from battle and decay in general. So we're just going to apply this on all of the lead belcher metal areas that we've just painted. We're just going to take it straight from the pot, put it on the palette, try and just have some sort of brush control, and then just take it straight to the model. When it dries, it'll go with this nice, dirty and darkened metallic look. With the silicon grey now dried, we have a nice, dirty gunmetal look on all of the lead belcher. We're now going to move on to the other details. So on this tank, this symbol here was originally red. I painted gold just to see what it looked like. Hasn't come out great. So I've got some corn red right here. So we can paint this little symbol here in corn red, as well as the eye of the Zinch symbol on the back. With the red details of the Rhino now completed, we can move on to one of the last steps. We're going to take Citadel Colors Base Avon Sunset for the main headlights at the front of the tank here and here. And here we have our finished product. I think I spent a total about 8 or 9 hours on the Rhino. And I'll be honest, I'm very, very, very happy with how it's come out. I love my highlights. I think the highlights of the gold make it look so much better. With the helmet, the librarian head, and the skulls, I just covered them both with 1 or 2 coats of Raccoon Flesh Shade, so the recesses are more seen. The skulls are a bit darker, look more bony, and the librarian's head looks a bit more withered. Onto the back section, it's very bland, it's just the Zinch symbol on the door. We have some small detailing, this whole back section, and then we can move around to the side. There's this symbol thing, don't know what it was, I just put it in gold. Our lovely highlights, which I'm very happy with. Our smokestacks, librarian head, and our spikes, which came out on a very nice dark gunmetal silver. Going over to the front, we have the missile pod. I think the metal came out the best on the missile pod over here. We have small symbol, looks alright. The Imperial Fist Captain's helmet looks very decayed and a lot darker than it should be, and I really like that. Other side, not much to see other than our detailing and our spikes. And yeah, that's the model. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Every week I'm going to be trying to do some sort of project, whether it's a model restoration, trying out a paint scheme, building up an army, whatever it is. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with family and friends, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.